Hello, you're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 2:54 p.m. Night Movie Gang. My name is LC Hines. I'm here with my buddy Joseph.
Hello.
And our lovely guest, Harvey Thomas Boyd. We've had on before.
Hey, great to be back.
Yeah, glad that you're back, man. The episodes that you've been on have been some of our more listened to ones, so like you just got to keep coming back.
I listened to you guys' 28 Days Later episode on a long drive, and I really enjoyed that. Actually, I had a response, Joseph, that's also one of my favorite movies. Probably top 3. Maybe we're talking even top 2. I really love how artsy that movie is.
It's amazing. That's great to hear. Yeah. I love that movie. So I feel like that episode was just a mess of me just gushing and Elsie and Rion being like, "Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, you're right."
You're fanboy and hardcore with that one.
Yeah,
you know.
I have no regrets.
Yeah, I pretty much realized in that episode that I pretty much had not seen the original 28 Days Later. Really, I'm really hyped for 28 Years. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how like the rules of that universe. Yeah.
Well, that trailer. If it ends up being a bad movie, I'll watch that trailer for 2 hours straight because that is one of the greatest trailers ever made.
Yeah, because the trailer's good at least.
Yeah. Courtney gets really mad at me when sometimes I'll just sit and I'll just be like boots. it'll piss them off because they get it stresses them out.
Jumping up and down again.
Yeah, jumping up and down again. So today we're not here to talk about 28 Days Later. We're here to talk about the Men in Black. The franchise as a whole, specifically the ones that we had said we were rewatching or watching was Men in Black 1 and Men in Black International, which is the 4th film release. Before I even get into that, for those of you, if this is your first episode, this is a show where we kind of talk about horror, science fiction, cult cinema, lesser known, stuff like the fun, goofy movies, in general, kind of, for nerds. This is certainly a nerdy franchise, and I guess the reason we wanted to talk about Men in Black today, it really just started out because I got some pretty cool secondhand, like collector's edition DVDs of the first 2 films, and I was just like getting really into the special features in those, and
they are cool as hell. Yeah. One of them looks like a briefcase.
Yeah, it's like a leather mat thing. It's pretty cool, and then after kind of watching the movies, like especially like I watched the first 2 with Joseph. Like we had just been kind of talking about how this intellectual property is, in my opinion, is primed for like you can do so much with it. It's primed for some kind of reboot or some kind of reimagining or something. And I know that me and Joseph have a lot of ideas on where it could go, and I'd love to kind of talk about them,
especially when we were high watching the first one. We had a lot of really interesting ideas.
Man, if you're stoned and you watch that scene where it turns out the universe is a marble in a giant game of marbles, it messes with your head.
From a PS3 game?
We're all just inside a PS3 marble bag.
I live my life in 30 FPS.
In a bag of holding. And Harvey, we thought we could pick your brain as far as this franchise, this IP as well. So
yeah, I got a lot to pick. I did watch 1, and I guess I know 4 is a magic number. Everyone hates the number 4 in Hollywood, but Men in Black International. So I watched 1 and 4, and then I watched recaps of 2 and 3.
Cool, rock and roll. And you had seen 2 and 3 in the past?
Oh yeah. My dad loved these movies, and so I saw all of them with him.
Yeah, so did my dad. Right. This is a very dad movie. The franchise.
Stuff like
at least up until the 4th one.
Oddly enough, my like Catholic grandmother was who turned me on to horror, and she would like record stuff for me. And so like watching Tremors with her is some of my earliest horror movie stuff. Nice. But if something was kind of like fun and adventurous and had Will Smith in it, my dad would take me to it. So I absolutely remember seeing Men in Black with my dad.
Did you see Wild Wild West in the theater?
Oddly enough, no. That movie, I've wanted to see that movie for so long. I've never watched it.
Another Barry Sonnenfeld classic. Yeah. You should do a commentary for it.
Okay, yeah, no, that would be a good one for a commentary. I was about to say, like, maybe the wanting to watch it is more enjoyable than actually watching it. But
I've seen The Spider, and I seem to remember deep down there was a Burger King toy line, and so I think of the movie Wild Wild West, I see the spider, and I can taste a Burger King nugget. And that's very nostalgia wrapped for me.
Yeah. If you watch it, maybe that perception will change. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. Who knows?
Probably for the worse, I'm guessing, but we'll find out.
Yeah, probably for the worse. I didn't want to make a judgment call, but yeah, it's probably for the worse.
So to kind of kick things off with the Men in Black discussion, you guys already kind of started going into it, but I just wanted to get your guys' feel for y'all's history with this franchise, maybe like maybe some memories associated from when you first saw these movies, and like kind of what revisiting them for this episode kind of brought up, because I definitely saw it, like the franchise as a whole, in a different way. Men in Black 3 honestly is the one that rewatching it this time, I kind of saw it I appreciated it in a different way, like watching it back to back with 2 as well, like the order of kind of how I cared changed. But I wanted to hear y'all's history with this franchise.
Sure, we're just it's a Mexican standoff of who's going to talk about Men in Black first.
I was like, I'm going to stay silent just as a power
whoever wants to jump in. Harvey, you're a guest, so you can.
Yeah, I'll steal it. You know, that movie opens up. Yeah. I remember sitting through the credits of Men in Black International, and there's a special credit at the end for the font they use for their opening credits, because it's such a striking, unique font, and that was one of the things that hit me right in that opening scene. Where you've got the coyotes crossing the border. It turns out one of them's an alien. MIB shows up for the first time. You have that really striking Men in Black font that's not the MIB. And right from that very first moment, you realize that like this is a tailored film. Every single detail has so much intelligence behind it. I remembered loving this movie as a kid. But I also remember loving some really dumb stuff as a kid. So I think the level of artistry went over my head when I was and maybe it didn't. Maybe I was picking some of that stuff up on the subconscious level. But it is a wonderfully made movie with so much effort behind it, and so much charisma. I mean, that was my experience rewatching it. It's so overflowing with talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, the first movie really is masterful in a way that like it is kind of lightning in a bottle.
Can't replicate
it.
Yeah.
Never did.
Mm-hmm. They've tried. Go ahead.
I grew up watching 1 and 2 a lot. Like I said, this is a very big dad movie. My dad loved Men in Black 1 and 2. It was always like pretty much anytime it was on cable, it was on in the house. I love these first. Honestly, I'd never seen the third one, but I saw it for this, and it's honestly, I'd say it's about as good as 2. 1 is like, I had underestimated how much better 1 is than the rest of them, but I think you're right though. It has this like super clever twist to literally every detail. Like I think so a lot of the humor is just like these like clever little explanations for things of just like, oh, that's creative.
Yeah.
And that's just all over, and that's not in the fourth one at all for me.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the humor in the first movie lies on, it's either a combination of like the characters just playing off each other so well. Like Tommy Lee Jones as Agent K is so great in the sense that like he's just a guy doing his job. Like the crazy.
And for me, that's like where like the charm of these movies come from, is just like it's just people at work. That I think that's what's missing from the fourth one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I would also say is that you want to talk about, how weird it is being a human being in 2025, and just the sad future we live in is, if you talk to a 10-year-old today and you ask them about Will Smith, he's kind of a weird aloof.
Oh, he's the guy
the slap guy?
That guy who hit somebody at the Oscars,
yeah, but
right?
In 1997, this might be peak Will Smith, and that's saying something, because that's one of the biggest stars there ever was. If you could actually give a movie to aliens to explain, what life on Earth is, you'd say, look at Will Smith's charisma in Men in Black. He is on fire.
He's at the top of his game. Yeah.
I forget if this is a year after Independence Day, I'm pretty sure. So
so
1997.
And that's not a charisma he replicates for the other ones either. Like he tries, he comes close, but in the first one, he's just, him being a fish out of water is so perfect.
Well, and pardon me for, using IMDb trivia for some talking points, but he originally passed on the script and said he didn't want to be associated with just doing alien movies constantly. And it was Jada Pinkett Smith who was like, "This script is cool. You should do it."
Nice.
The fun,
and if she tells him to do something,
and that's why he defends her with every last hit.
But you're talking about Tommy Lee Jones being so good in this movie. One of the other fun facts I read is that because there's always other people in consideration for roles, but Men in Black was almost David Schwimmer as J and Clint Eastwood as K, and that would spoil the soup in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I get where they were
I do want to see it though.
I get where they were going with Clint Eastwood, just as far as like on paper,
like Dirty Harry.
On paper, the character is crotchety old man, but I feel like Tommy Lee Jones just brings in the first movie, like he's crotchety old man in 2 and 3.
Yeah, but he's like, he's like the older guy you work with. But Clint Eastwood is like, he would play just like a psychopath. I don't know if he could bring that like kind of affable, like, hey guys, how's the coffee today kind of shit that that Tommy Lee Jones does.
He would be the comic book K, as far as like.
I do want to see it though. Having just watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Fistful of Dollars for the first time, I would love to see him as Agent K.
But the David Schwimmer as J is where you get into territory of an awful, unwatchable movie.
Yeah, that I will pass on. It's the Clint Eastwood thing. Like, David Schwimmer was really, he was in Band of Brothers. He was really like trying. That was like directly kind of toward the end of Friends, right? Around what year was that?
I guess
97.
I think Friends is on its way out, but I don't know my history. I'm not a Friends person. Yeah, we got a Google search.
Me either. In either senses of the word.
Okay, no.
A single episode of Friends.
I'm wrong.
Damn, 2004. I was wrong. Yeah, that's crazy. It was full swing, Friends, and everyone thought David Schwimmer's funny. Fuck it.
But back to Men in Black, and part of what works so well about it, and I'm going to compare this to Men in Black International later, is I thought the opening 3 scenes are really fantastic because you kind of have 3 central plot lines, and you have the opening with K at the border, which establishes neuralizers, establishes Men in Black, establishes what they do, has a cool monster. And you immediately go to J, which sets up his character arc, and then you immediately go to the villain and what's going to be the villain's story. And as far as just kind of like a big dumb Hollywood movie, it is structured really well, and it introduces all 3 of these plots. They're all engaging and exciting and funny. I usually spend most of my time shitting on movies because most movies are bad, but it just opens so well.
Yeah, no, there's no fat to trim with this movie as far as like every scene is constantly pushing forward into the next. Like everything means something. Like you're constantly.
It's so clever and pared down. It's a half hour shorter than the 4th one.
Yeah. There's no fluff whatsoever. And even beyond that, it's funny that as far as I feel like these it kind of fits within the theme of Men in Black. Like these characters are so well defined in terms of their personality. We don't really learn at least in this first movie, we don't really learn anything about the past of these characters. Like we don't know. Yeah. If like
you get a sense for these characters just by how they act because they're such strong actors.
Yeah, like they never mention
strong personalities.
Yeah, they never mention if Jay has like a family or anything, like a girlfriend or whatever. Oh. Like it's not, I guess
it's not important.
It can be assumed that like anybody who decides to join the Men in Black are people who just like don't have anyone anyway. So.
Well, you look at that from like a go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say from like a grubby Hollywood producer perspective, you'd want to write in a girlfriend plot, or you'd want to write in a plot about how he takes care of his mom or something. But instead, there's this shot of him, and I don't remember where in New York, but he's like sitting on a bench at sunset in this really relaxed position, and he's just like thinking about joining MIB. And it's 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell by the way that it's shot and by like the nonverbal acting, he's thinking about throwing his life away to join this organization. And it works. It didn't need dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I said while we were watching it, like a lesser movie would have him like go talk to somebody about that. And then like they like convince him to, or something like that. Or he would like walk down the street and he'd like stop an alien crime or something. But this movie's so efficient that he literally is just thinking about it and then he decides to do it. It's perfect.
He talked to like an old pissed off cop in his precinct who like,
Yeah.
you're gonna end up like me if you stay around here.
Yeah.
Type of deal, you know?
It's like we get it.
Yeah,
we can, because honestly, like the less he says, the more we can like imprint our own rationale as to why he would agree to do this.
Yeah. That scene is also followed. I guess we're getting into the. We pretty much been going into the plot of the movie. Even saying that scene is also preceded by the scene. I really like the scene where Tommy Lee Jones is kind of explaining to Jay why the Men in Black like needs to exist, or like why it exists in the way it does, in terms of like you know, like people just aren't ready. Like, you know, a person is smart, but people are dumb, crazy animals, and you know, like people just like need to not know what's going on in order to keep things, you know, going well. And it kind of ties into like an element of what we were talking about with in the movie, is that like you know, it's in my opinion that like to join the Men in Black you just need to be kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you gotta be a weirdo. Everyone there is a weirdo.
You have to have a certain level of like a capacity to deal with
weird shit.
with like weird shit and not have that instinct of being afraid, because I think that that's ultimately what happens when like if aliens were to be revealed or something dramatic like that happens, is that like the negative response is just like the fear that is within all of us of the unknown. And like I think people who like have more curiosity than that fear are the kind of people who like would want to join Men in Black. I just thought it was an interesting scene that like just made me kind of think about, you know, people, and just I really like that little moment.
So I think
it's super
that bleeds really well into the New York angle of Men in Black, which I think is one of the best things it has going for it. And I was really disappointed to see that utterly abandoned by Men in Black International. Is the idea Tommy Lee Jones around that same time has a line of like, have you ever seen the movie Casablanca? That's New York. New York is, you know, is a zone where aliens can come live. And that's one, a really cool concept. And two, I think it fleshes out the universe in a way too of, okay, well, this is localized to New York, and the Men in Black mostly work out of New York too. That's just one of those little details that feels very clever.
Yeah. I like the idea of like New York is like the hub of like where the most alien immigrants live. So like because it makes sense. It's rational. It's like that cleverness I was talking about, because it's half a joke of like, well, yeah, aliens probably do live around you in New York and you just never notice because no one's paying attention to anybody else.
Exactly.
And weird shit's happening all the time. It's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep walking to work.
Yeah, the humans of New York are just not going to be fazed by anything. So it does make all this sense. That definitely is something that international really feels like it feeling like other parts of the world are as ingrained in like the alien culture just definitely deflates like that point in this first one.
It's also like the lowest risk, because like imagine telling a New Yorker that like there's people on the subway who are just aliens. They'd probably just be like, yeah, that's probably true. Sure. What difference does that make for me?
That's one of the gags I remembered most. If I had been asked like what I remembered of Men in Black before I watched it, I would remember the scene where he realizes New York is full of aliens and he just sees a bunch of weirdos walking around, and that's such like a.
It's like they're not hard to spot. Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good, Harvey. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you guys had a Mandela effect, because I did. I remembered there being a theme song montage. I think I combined the Ghostbusters theme song montage with the Men in Black music video. And I remember there being like Jay learns the ropes as the iconic Men in Black song plays, and there's a bunch of funny alien hijinks. I just constructed that scene in my brain.
I suppose, yeah. No, idiot.
I mean, yeah, like
just shows up in the end credits.
A training montage would have made sense, but they don't do that in these movies. They literally, like, the way that Men in Black works is like, all right, you are now a member of Men in Black. Go out and, I don't know, solve some alien shit, I guess.
Do some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Like, once they trust you, you're in, I guess. You can just go on. I wanted to...
no training, see nothing.
I wanted to say that the... like, I think that you could... just as I'm kind of sitting here thinking about it and something... I think you could expand the idea of like there being a bunch of aliens to other certain kind of like cultural hubs around the world, as far as like something that would make a lot of sense to me. And Joseph, we kind of our version of like, so Harvey, a lot of like what we were kind of saying we wanted out of like if they were to do Men in Black reimagining, reboot, some kind of thing, would be like an R-rated period piece, like in the 70s,
the 70s,
kind of like crime thriller type deal.
Oh God, that would have been
like,
cool.
Like fucking Seven with aliens is the vibe that we're trying to go for. Like really leaning into the whole like maybe so like
grimy, disgusting New York,
the body horror elements. But I think here's the thing though, and the more I'm thinking about it, you could have it set. I think it could be cool if, like, let's say you could set it in L.A. because throughout all these movies we established that a fuck ton of celebrities are aliens.
Hey, I've got some really good news for you. The thing you want already exists. It's an episode of the X-Files. It's a pointless X-Files episode that gives you an origin of why the X-Files are called the X-Files. And there's like a LA FBI agent who's investigating this like disgusting alien that pops out of people, a la Aliens. But it is a very violent, very dark and gritty 1950s noir about aliens in Los Angeles. So that's pretty close to what you're asking for.
That sounds sick.
Yeah.
I need to watch the X-Files.
Yeah, I need to get back into it. I remember I watched a little bit with my mom growing up, but I never like sat down and watched the series. Yeah. And something that definitely did occur to me as we were kind of talking about what you could do with this franchise is that I would be worried about it potentially turning into like being seen as an X-Files ripoff.
Yeah.
Especially because I know I was looking at like online like what a lot of people have kind of said about like what they would want out of this franchise in terms of its horror potential. And a lot of people say like go back to the original comic, in the sense that the comic that this is based off of, which there's only I'm going to read, there's only 6 issues of the like original comic. It's pretty short.
That's crazy.
They don't just deal with aliens. They also deal with other paranormal things like ghosts and the occult and like all this stuff. And
well, do you know about like the actual like high strangeness concept of the Men in Black?
Do you mean like in just like in the culture of the real world
as like a cryptid?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. They're fucking scary.
Yeah, no.
And there's like there's conspiracy theory that making the Men in Black into like comedy movies is some way of like desensitizing and making people take the concept less seriously, as like because Men in Black in like term. I'm not going to bramble about this, but Men in Black. This
is
like
now the conspiracy theory podcast.
It's interesting because they're like way darker than anything in this. They're like interdimensional entities, I guess. Like they're not like a government structure or anything like that. They're just like weird freaks that show up and tell you to shut up about whatever you saw.
It's like the Frozen conspiracy. Disney made a global hit, Frozen, because they were tired of people Googling Disney's Frozen head. And so it was all a gigantic search engine optimization conspiracy. So yeah, they don't.
That makes about the same amount of sense. So yeah,
as the whole Men in Black thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I mean, hey, if you want to believe that conspiracy theory, then that makes sense as to why we haven't leaned into the more horror elements of this. I mean, I think the main reason is because the current rights holder is Sony.
Ugh, yeah.
And how long have they? Yeah, they've been doing it since. And Sony has just had such a. I don't know what it is in the water over there.
They need to get it together, man.
Over there. All their movies have been fucking up.
I'm going to steal some notes that I have for Men in Black International, and so I apologize for jumping ahead, but I invented this term, and this term I think is a good metaphor for like modern filmmaking, and this term is magic transforming bullshit, and it's a thing that started happening in the late 2000s. And it's where a character gets into an ordinary looking vehicle, and then the vehicle does like the Michael Bay Transformers thing, and it just looks like dog shit. Men in Black International, which is not the worst thing ever made. It's not terrible. It's just not good. We'll get to that. Yeah. But she gets on a train, and the train has one of the worst magic bullshit transformations I've ever seen. It turns into like a vintage train, and then it turns into an Apple store.
Yeah.
But the magic
I saw that and I was like, why couldn't it just be a train car?
So the magic transforming bullshit, I feel like, is a good metaphor for like the way scripts are written now, and like especially the Sony PG-13ification of media. Interestingly enough, I was bored recently and watched Ghostbusters Afterlife, which reminded me. No. Yeah, that says something that you forgot.
Yeah,
it reminded me a lot of MIB International, and we're talking about taking this franchise and making it R-rated. I think that just PG-13 and playing things safe has this real like whitewash effect on stories, and something like Ghostbusters or Men in Black would be a lot more fun if it could just be like a hard R or for kids, and trying to do both puts it in a box.
I feel like it's tough. I'm glad you brought up Ghostbusters in general, because Ghostbusters was definitely another movie that you could draw some allusions to with Men in Black in terms of like the idea of taking something extraordinary and presenting it in more of a mundane way, in the sense like they're exterminators or like they're government workers, you know, like in the sense that I think if you look at it, if you were to like literally just remake like almost shot for shot like same jokes like the original Ghostbusters, it probably would be like rated R today.
Oh yeah.
You know, as far as like modern, so like, or at least it would be like a soft R. Like I feel like it would be it'd be something. There are certain jokes that would like have to be, and this isn't how to put it. This isn't me going like, oh, people are too sensitive nowadays. I think it's more along the lines of like, there is
it was made for adults.
Yeah, exactly.
PG-13 used to have more grit. It did.
Yes, that's that's kind of what I mean. I think the scale has shifted. I think what constitutes a PG-13 now, like, has been reduced a lot. Like PG-13 now means like Marvel like PG-13 now means family.
But you know what I mean?
Someone will die and there'll be a drop of blood on their forehead.
What I have to say to that, though, is that if you went back in time and you remade Ghostbusters today, it would be too edgy to where they probably would go for an R. Part of what is really magic about Men in Black is it rides that line perfectly. It is PG-13. It is fun in kind of an R-rated sense, and like this could be a kid's cartoon sense. It might be like the only movie that ever perfectly Sonic the Hedgehog, grinded on that rail of this is a fun PG-13 movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is too. Yeah, it's fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun when you're kids. It's fun when you're my dad.
I feel like the most R-rated or like the quote unquote the darkest, most adult elements are like some of the. There are some like body horror elements, especially when you with Edgar.
Oh yeah,
which we haven't even fucking talked about Vincent D'Onofrio yet.
My favorite part.
Yeah, I've got my notes open right here, and in bold underlined is Vincent D'Onofrio gives the performance of the century. Like that is.
It's honestly, it's mind-boggling how great
and that's not hyperbole.
I don't even know. Yeah, because I was like, how do you think that they like? What was the
direction on this?
Yeah, like how do they audition people for this? Like so the role is you have a 15-foot cockroach living in your skin like a rubber suit,
and it's slowly rotting.
Like? Yeah, it's slowly rotting, and the bug's getting like more and more claustrophobic in there as it goes. So like, how's that look? Figure that out, and D'Onofrio just nails that perfectly, and it's on. Yeah, like you said, it's like one of the most impressive pieces of acting I think I've ever seen.
Apparently, one of the things I read from behind the scenes is that he just watched a bunch of bug documentaries. He like wanted to get the mind of a bug, and then he did an impression of like Orson Welles. It's. I mean, we talk about the Oscars going to just drama movies, but Vincent D'Onofrio deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award for that performance. It's what makes that watermark of just being such a like immediately identifiable villain with so much like memorability.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they knocked it out of the park in that first movie, and then they were never able to get as interesting of a villain again.
No, and Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say that something that I really like about a lot of the aliens, or at least a good amount of the aliens, especially in the first Men in Black, and like a lot of my favorite ones, is like I like aliens that are doing shitty jobs of pretending to be human.
Yeah.
Like and here
they're just trying to make it through, man. They just got bills to pay.
Just trying to go ahead. That's one of the reasons I really liked I appreciated Boris the Animal more in Men in Black 3 versus like Serlina in 2.
Yeah.
Like he's not on the level of Vincent D'Onofrio obviously, but Jermaine Clement to me gives more of like a weirdo, like, yeah, this feels like some creature pretending to be a dude versus
it does. He is playing like a scary like animal.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of either him or the lady from the second one, though. I
prefer him to Serlina. Serlina was just boring to me. I forgot how fucking boring she was. Like her performance is like nothing. She's just like slightly pissed off woman in leather jacket the whole movie.
And then I think like, oh well, who was even the villain in the fourth?
The twins.
I guess Liam Neeson.
No, the twins from Cats.
But they.
Did you guys?
The space twin.
Did you guys see the movie Cats?
Yeah.
They did look like.
No, it's them.
It
is them.
The Cats.
It is the same people.
They did the dance and everything.
Yeah, Cats is one of my favorite movies.
They did an awkward dance.
I watch it once a year. It is.
We saw it in the theater, and I think there was an older couple in front of us that was very angry with us by the end of the movie.
Well, they couldn't have been enjoying it. They're probably mad at the movie. But it is.
I think that was part of why they were more angry with us. Was like, God, maybe if they weren't laughing the whole time, I'd be able to enjoy this. But deep down in their hearts, they knew.
It's
Cats
Lay
was
Twins.
one of the most.
Lay Twins Cats movie.
Cats was one of the most difficult viewing experiences I've ever had. Just as far as
it's hard. It's hard to watch.
The Uncanny Valley usually doesn't bother me a whole lot. Like it's something like I can notice, but with Cats, like I'm
just watching these nude people dance.
I'm constantly aware of it.
Yes, of the people's fur is like clipping through their heads and shit.
But if that was missed at all, I want to confirm. Les Twins are their name. They're a pair of twins that dance from France. I think their names are Laurent and Larry Bourgeoisie. I think that is their name.
I thought you were making a judgment.
No, that is their names.
The bourgeoisie.
It is bourgeoisie or bourgeois.
It is
bourgeois.
Laurent and Larry Nicholas Bourgeois.
Yeah, they're Les Twins, and they play a pair of dancing cats in the movie Cats, and they play the iconic villain of Men in Black International.
The most memorable. Get the fuck out of here,
Space
Edgar.
Boys.
I mean, they'd probably be able to kill Edgar. Their powers were pretty fucking intense.
Well, yeah, they sucked. They were like. They had like by definition they had no personality. Like they were like cats.
They were
cats.
They were doing Robert Patrick from Terminator 2, just looking very stern and being powerful.
Were.
Yeah, that was what they were trying to do.
And they were also dancing for some reason.
So I know we are
to blend
a little bit all over the place, which I think is probably my fault. But I did want to say, before we move on from Men in Black, or as long as we're still talking about Men in Black, it needs to be said that Linda Florentino as the mortician, she really does a fantastic job too. She brings a lot.
She does, yeah.
You meet that character, and immediately, because this is around the time of X-Files fever, you expect her to be a Scully ripoff. But there's a surprising a lot of depth to her, and she has fantastic chemistry with Will Smith. I think that as much as Vincent D'Onofrio needs credit for what he brings to that small character, the Mortician from Men in Black is really memorable, and another filmmaker would have made that a more forgettable role.
Yeah. I think it's something. This isn't necessarily something about her character specifically, but something that is I want to use this as a bridge to the gap of like they utilize neuralizers the best in this first one, probably in the first two, really.
Oh yeah.
Just as far as like the idea that like Kay has gone, like Kay and probably other agents too have gone to this woman. She gets in alien bodies all the time. She's probably examined like dozens, if not hundreds, of like alien bodies and like given incredible information. But they just
he's done it more times than he can remember.
They just erased her fucking memory every time. Is just like so goddamn funny. And they get a lot out of the fucking neuralizer, like especially too. It's just,
No, I watched 1 and 2, 1 and 4 pretty close back together in the recaps. And the neuralizer gets old pretty immediately after Men in Black 1 ends.
Yes.
And Men in Black 1 toes the line. Like it gets close to overdoing that joke. But
it's like the central mechanic of the series. Like it really wants it to be like the main icon of the whole series.
But 4 opens and it has the Columbia logo, and the Columbia lady has the sunglasses and the neuralizer. And after having recently watched the recaps in 1, I was like, all right, that's dial it back.
I saw that and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
We had to take a break halfway through 4. We haven't gotten to 4 yet, but all we've done is talk shit on it. But we had to take a break halfway through 4 because it was that bad ordeal for. I did not.
I have a shocking amount of good things to say about 4. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's a 1-star terrible movie, but I think it has some good ideas.
I'm excited to hear them
lying around. But we'll get to that in a minute. I think there is more positive things to say about Men in Black. I did want to ask you guys. I think this is an interesting question because I have a ready-to-go answer. What do you think is the most disappointing and weakest part of the original Men in Black? Because it's a pretty perfect movie, but everything's going to have flaws.
Of the original?
I can answer. Yeah, of the original. I can answer while you guys think.
I think the ending feels a little bit abrupt.
Same.
Yeah.
I think that's always been my issue with it. But, I also appreciate brevity and being able to leave the theater sooner. So, I don't know.
Will Smith's weird priest suit at the end. Like, he has like a priest collar.
I don't know, man. I was like, is he in Equilibrium or something? Why is he Why is he wearing that? He looks fucking sick, though.
So, Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was actually going to say that for me, it is the cockroach final form. I think that Vincent D'Onofrio is so cool as that monster, and he's so engaging that it really is kind of a letdown. Because as far as the monster designs go, too, every monster really looks incredible in Men in Black, except for the final roach form, which is pretty uninspired. One of the things I found out
about... It's pretty video gamey.
Yeah.
And it sucks because they've stuck with that format for all 4 movies. The villain drops the human form that it has and turns into the weird, creepy alien form for the last 5 minutes.
Turns into a big CGI thing.
If I could fix Men in Black, which
4.
doesn't need any fixing, it's a perfect movie. But having Vincent D'Onofrio with some like cockroach legs coming out of him and like half of his face is cockroach, I think would have looked would have just been so much more entertaining.
I agree.
A tidbit of trivia is apparently Rick Baker did design a giant like animatronic cockroach, kind of like the Alien Queen, but they couldn't use it. They had to do a CG. And so that really is the bruise on the banana for me. You were saying something.
Oh
no.
I was just saying, so I'm pretty sure this is closer to what it originally looked like.
That's pretty cool.
Something.
That's gross.
I think the main problem though was that the creature wasn't big enough because they kind of like added like in reshoots they added like a bunch of things like they wanted to be able to eat K, and they wanted to be able to throw J around and stuff, so they had to they had to change it.
I like the concept of the villain of just like it's like a locust species that literally just exists to destroy for its own sake, and that's the character, like it's behind the performance Vincent D'Onofrio is giving the whole this like pained I'm stuck in this suit performance. He's also like just a raging asshole, but like in like a real like smart ass way, like not like a cackling villain way that I feel like we kind of start to slip into as the series goes along.
Yeah,
but he's just like another comedic character. He's just a dick.
Men in Black 1 could have been so cliche by having like a mustache twirling villain, and that's part of what's so refreshing is that it's this it's like if a xenomorph could talk. I don't mean to keep bringing it back to that, but he just doesn't give a shit.
He's just this gross asshole. He's like, yeah, sure, I fucking, you know what I want to kill everyone in this room, so go ahead, try to convince me.
I just wanted to say real quick that what is it, something that I guess a thing that is like a complaint as far as like I think it's just something that in retrospect doesn't make sense. It would bother me more now if I had seen this movie as an adult, but it is the fact that like Jay, like Tommy Lee Jones, like leaves Jay and like he's like, your training is over and it's only been legit like 72 hours.
It's literally been like 2 days.
And that is something that is consistent with the other movies in terms of like like how fast you just become like an official agent and you're just entrusted with all this shit. Like it does feel like that element, I guess, does in the movie in itself. Like when you're watching it, for me, it doesn't matter, and I think it's one of those things for me. Like I can suspend my disbelief a lot with things, and to me, that's like a small detail that's an issue. But that is something that I guess you could call a problem. It would make more sense that like the movie ends with J and K still being on adventures together, but it was more to complete K's arc, which I think
it was his whole arc, and then there was it was one of like 3 arcs that are completely disregarded in the sequel and thrown in the garbage.
Well, and I liked the surprise little ending that the mortician finally stops getting her brain scanned and she gets to be an MIB agent. Because like as much as we don't get to spend much time with the character, she's really like curious and fascinated by aliens. And if there had never been an MIB sequel and you just wanted a cool idea to end on, that was cool. I liked that she became an MIB agent and was his partner.
And then she gets neuralized by the beginning of the first movie, or the second
in between movies. Yeah. It's like, Elle wanted to go back to the morgue. I just helped her. What is it, Joseph? I know you really like that scene. Like these like nice little touches to like Kay's character, especially like where Kay is at the Men in Black computer and he's using their like satellites or whatever to check in on the one who got away.
Jay is like prying into it, and Tommy Lee Jones gives like a really good, like I said, it's like a Tony Soprano getting angry scene where like he could just see like him like doing like every individual step up in annoyance as Jay continues, and he knows the exact points when that would happen. It's just
the way
I don't know.
He's like filing his papers
that scene
and
just
stuff.
Just thought that was a good performance in that scene. It reminded me of
If I am going to nitpick, I do have a complaint. His origin story, I didn't catch it as a kid, and I only really noticed it this time around. It is a little confusing. He was going to go on a date, and then he was caught up in an alien landing, and so he just had to abandon his life. Is that?
I guess it is very vague.
Yeah, but like, because they set it up to be kind of like a twist and a revelation, but they don't really spend a lot of time fleshing it out. But if you go watch... There's that motorcycle I warned you guys about. I apologize if that reaches the people at home. But
I don't think I heard it.
Good. All right. But they show like the origin of the first time mankind met aliens. And there's a really poorly photoshopped Agent K in it. Yeah. And it was like, there were 10 government agents and 1 man on his way home from a date. And that's how he got swept up in everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't think I've ever fully understood his backstory. I think you explaining it just now was the best I've understood his backstory. They
retconned that shit in Men in Black International, and I remember it pissing me off really bad.
Yeah,
they did.
They said that
Did they?
So in Men in Black 1, they say that the first alien showed up in 1961 in that field and shit, and that was the first time aliens came to Earth. And then in Men in Black International, the Eiffel Tower, Mr. Eiffel, the person who designed the Eiffel Tower, which I have no idea when that is, but he said that like he created the Eiffel Tower as he was one of the first Men in Black agents, and he created the Eiffel Tower as a gateway for the first alien migration. Which I have no idea when was the Eiffel Tower created. This is me. I'm a movie guy, not a history guy.
It was, I don't know, 1800s. I don't remember.
How do you spell Eiffel? 1 second. 1889. Yeah, so well before.
Thank you, Google.
Well before the first movie established when aliens came to Earth, and I'm like, man, you didn't care, huh?
Nope, they don't care.
Well, they also didn't care about the New York thing. I think we're gonna probably start
which is like the core to the identity of.
We've there's pretty much one more scene in Men in Black 1 that I know that I really want to talk. I think we kind of went through most of the plot, but like one scene that I want to point out before we and I don't want to break down 2 and 3. I feel like 2 and 3 we can just kind of like talk about points that we want to talk about in that movie. I mostly more want to talk about 3 than 2. I love the whole recruitment like testing sequence with Jay, like when he comes to Men in Black, and they're all the army guys and police officers, and like all these like really snooty dudes, and like Jay is just coming at all of these like problems that he's being thrown like on,
as he's viewing it as absurd as it actually is.
The least comfortable chairs known to man, and like him dragging the chair and it being the worst nails on a chalkboard screeching sound ever.
That actually does bring up another point we're talking about, and that is Rip Torn. That's that sequence where he's taking all the tests and he's doing better than all these Army Rangers and other stuff. That's a really good example of like how the Men in Black work and how that organization functions. Because if you put if you gave this script to someone who didn't have any talent, you would do something very cliche where Rip Torn is like, we'll never ever have him. He's not good enough. And Tommy Lee Jones has to prove it. And it would be, this big bucket of cliches, but Rip Torn, because he's in charge of this organization, and he just knows, like, if you're going to be a Man in Black, you have to be a freak. And Tommy Lee Jones sees it, and Rip Torn just lets him do it.
You got to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's
it's great.
Sorely lacking as we go on, is Rip Torn doesn't do much, but it's a very small performance that carries a lot of weight. I think one of my favorite things...
The agency isn't weird enough moving forward.
One of my favorite gags from Men in Black, and it shouldn't work because I hate it when big action movies deflate their attention. I feel like they shouldn't do that. But when they find out that Earth is going to be exploded in 10 minutes, I think Rip Torn has a line is like, Earth's always going to be about to explode in 10 minutes. Shit happens all the time.
Yeah, this is just their Thursday. And I think that's why I don't really care about the fourth one, because it's like way too big and it's so self-serious. And it's also this interesting thing where comedies will get sequels where so much time has passed that the sensibilities of the audience is presumably changed by the people writing it. So the sense of humor of the movies are different.
Yeah.
So comparing them is going to be very difficult. Like and returning audiences just aren't going to get what they want because it's going to be a different sense of humor.
And Men in Black is so...
I think that's the problem with like the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot too. It's just completely different sensibilities.
It's so of its era. It's so 1997.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As far as Men in Black 2 and 3, upon these rewatches, like I said, Joseph and I watched 2 together, and then I watched 3 International on my own.
Yep. As did I.
Yeah. When I was a kid, 2 was my favorite. I think because they definitely lean into some of the more kind of like comedic little things. Like there's more of the worm guys.
So a lot of that dog.
There's a lot of Frank, which I do love Frank. Honestly, I think Frank is funny and cute, and
I think he wears off his welcome pretty soon. I think there's a reason he's like referenced 3 times in the third one for some reason and not actually in it.
Yeah, Jay has a picture of him on the wall in the third one.
I was reminded of the sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was reminded of the 90s Batman in that like 1 and 2 are kind of like artistic pieces that have something to say and they were made by artists. And then like 3 and 4 are toy commercials. Men in Black 2 is a toy commercial, and I remember loving the shit out of that toy commercial when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing too, but like Batman Returns can also be considered a toy commercial, so it's like a beautiful like double product.
Yeah. It's a balance. Before I guess we as far as like go into a lot of like what doesn't work about 2 necessarily, we can just kind of like touch on 2 more right now. In y'all opinion, what do you think does, because like I don't think that 2 is a bad movie. I think there are a good amount of things that do like carry over from the first one. Like I still think for the most part, like a lot of the alien designs are like really good. There's still a good amount of like practical effects with the aliens. We definitely get into the territory of some Bolshinians.
Bolshinians, my least favorite joke, but the one I always think of when I think of Men in Black 2.
But like I don't know, there are some like I love I think a lot of the little moments with Kay, like the post office scene when all the aliens reveal themselves. When I was a kid, I was like, whoa, that was like one of my
Beatboxing.
Whenever in a movie there's like a scene where there's just like a bunch of creatures or a bunch of like, I call it a look at that dude scene, like like the canteen, look at that dude, look at that dude. And that is one of my favorite look at that dude scenes, because like it's all, you know, they use like a lot of amputees in that scene too, like for like the practical shots and stuff, and just like I like how weird all the aliens look and stuff. And but yeah, no, there's a lot that I think I don't know.
That scene's great.
What your thoughts on 2? Y'all's thoughts on 2?
It's not the worst thing ever made.
Yeah, it's fine. I think 2 and 3 are about on par with each other. You know, it's just that thing where it's a sequel. It feels like a sequel. It feels like the very stereotypical, like it's the first one, but just like a little bit worse. And that's 2 and 3 for me.
Yeah, I'm very much reminded of Ghostbusters 2. It's kind of like everyone always talks about, oh man, I wish we had gotten Ghostbusters 3 back when, you know, everyone was alive. Ghostbusters 3 just would have been like Men in Black 3. Like, it's just kind of
Bill Murray was right.
Yeah, it's one again, and you can go have a good time, and you can have some fun looking at some aliens, and maybe there'll be some cool twists and jokes. But at the end of the day, they didn't do enough different from 1. So I'm just going to rewatch 1 if I feel like watching this world.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With that said, Jermaine Clements deserves credit. I think he is very charismatic as a villain. He is very much a mustache twirler, but he twirls his mustache so hard that it is kind of fun, magnetic.
He's interesting. Yeah.
I like Boris's like design. Like I like the kind of weird little
pretty cool
appendages like off of his eyeballs and stuff, and his weird like bifurcated teeth.
I think because the nothing really has ever. I said before, nothing's come close to the bug for me, and I think that's because the bug has like the same. In that first movie, the bug has the same take on the situation as the MIB, where it's just trying to get its job done. Pretty much, it's not a stereotypical like mustache twirling villain, where it's like, I'm going to take over the world. The bug is kind of just hungry.
Yeah,
and he just kind of wants another planet to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to try and
these other ones have like personal grudges with the MIB and shit, and this bug's just like, fuck, I better avoid those guys.
I am going to try and win some feminist good boy points just by saying I really hate the cliche in film franchises when a sequel is what if villain but hot, and they did it.
But girl,
they did it in Terminator 3, and it sucked then, and they did it I think in one of the, I think it was Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers has a third movie. It's terrible. That's just what if the bug was a hot girl. And I really hate in Men in Black 2.
Oh,
the villain is just...
That sounds horrible. What's it called?
I think it's just called 3. Or, you know, it might be... 3 might have been a bad number at the time, so it might be called like Starship Troopers Shadows of the Past or some shit like that.
Starship
Marauder.
Starship
Troopers 3 Marauder. 2008. No thanks.
The return of Johnny Reed.
That year is a red flag, I gotta say.
Oh my god, Casper Van Dien's in it?
Yeah,
he comes back for all. Well, I guess that is like his only thing. He is the Starship Troopers guy.
This looks a little bit direct to video for me.
Is it weird to you guys that David Cross has a bit part in Men in Black 1, and then he has a larger bit part as an entirely different person in MIB 2?
Oh.
I welcome it because I think he's the funniest part of both. Well, one of the funniest parts of both movies. Yeah. I think that the shovel joke in 2, I think, is the best joke in the movie for me. That's the funniest joke for me, is when David Cross tells them all the information. Meanwhile, like, he's got his girlfriend in his mom's attic, and she's like clearly like unsatisfied. So when Will Smith neuralizes him, he gives him like this list of demands on how to fix up his life, and then he says like, what does he say? He says like, tell your mom you're leaving, like your mom's out of the picture. And then afterward he picks up a shovel that's for some reason there, and he goes, Mom. And that joke is so much meaner than everything else in the movie that it just, I wish the rest of the movie had that bite.
Yeah, that had that bit of edge for sure.
Yeah.
To speak on David Cross's whole thing, I love that video store. I'm a big fan of like just the movie nerd in genre movie who knows he's in a genre movie. Like Randy from Scream, like those kind of characters are always like I don't know. It's one of those things. I want to walk around that weird video store that he has and like look at all the weird tapes and shit that he's collected and stuff. Like it's just yeah, no, it's a fun.
Love me some David Cross.
And that is another thing too. I do want to, before I forget about it, I do love the opening of 2 with like the old like B movie shitty Twilight Zone opening, you know, with like the little spaceship on a string type deal, and then later in the movie I do like we see the dark, like what really happened, you know. Kay's like, you know, when he's remembering like it was nighttime and you know everything is like way darker and more intense than it was in the opening. Like I like that we were talking about, we were watching just like kind of a reflection of like the ways that I feel like this IP could go, you know, like I want to see a more serious side of it.
There is a nihilism. I'm not going to try and get to. I'm not as smart as I'm about to sound, but I have listened to podcasts, and I can't remember who it was, but I watched this documentary about how like there was this seething nihilism in the 90s, and we loved watching movies about like Washington D.C. explode and hating the government, and that was just something like bubbling under the surface. This is just general distrust for like bureaucracy, and that's something that Men in Black really has. If you wanted to take an intellectual stance on the first Men in Black, it does have something to say about like not trusting the government, about how inefficient the government is, and that
how the government views the people.
Yeah, and that seething nihilism is very important to all of the comedy in that movie, and that nihilism is nowhere to be found, or it's fading because it's
not an international.
Yeah, it's especially not an international.
Especially 3. I feel like 3 in general is a lot more.
It's a lot brighter.
Yeah.
It's brighter. It's more kind of propaganda.
Yeah.
Centric.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of how it is. Like it's not really anti anything. Like even.
No, it does. It has the least to say. Well, except for 4, which
I think
feels honestly because it's also 4 is directed not by
Barry Sonnenfeld's directed by F. Gary Gray, who is a director that I like, but he didn't make
it's a completely different vibe, and it's a vibe very like of its time. It's not unique. It feels like every action movie that came out for a while, and I think I turned to Avery at some point. I was like, oh shit, this wants to be like an Avengers movie, like because everyone's quipping, but no one really has like a strong character. Everyone's just kind of the funny one.
It wants
like,
to be
mildly.
Guardians of the Galaxy. What if Chris Hemsworth was Star-Lord?
Man, is it time for us to talk about Men in Black International? Are we there?
Before we talk about,
I'm ready.
I want to talk about, before we break into shit talking Men in Black International. I do just want to talk about Josh Brolin as young K.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He's the best part of 3. And I do want to say, as far as like we were talking about the pie scene alone just feels like something K from the first movie would do, like that whole where he's talking about, you know, like he brings out, I think that like he so successfully captures like the heart of that character from the first movie, of K from the first movie, that in reality, like, and I do like, if it could happen, this whole kind of like 70s Men in Black reboot, I could definitely see them bringing back Josh Brolin to play K in like a 70s period piece and have that be the jumping off point, you know.
But that is something interesting. They completely forget how like funny and at ease K is in the first one, in both of the sequels after. They completely like they Flanderize him just to the point of being this like just stuffy old guy who's like rigid, but he's really not that in the first one. He's just like a weird old guy that Will Smith doesn't really know that well, but he's not like stuffy or like a drill sergeant. Yeah, but he's just seen all this shit before, so nothing surprises him.
Yeah, there was a little hint of like an idea in Men in Black 3 that they never really explored, that I think, and when I talk about the whole like 7 angle, so Kay, like when he's like has Will Smith like in the Men in Black offices or whatever, Kay's boss shows up and is like, how many casualties? And Kay's like, oh no, and he's like, how many human casualties? And you see Kay kind of wince, and like there's this element of like, you know, Kay, like at that point in time in the Men in Black, there was like clearly like a bias against like aliens, like as like beings that they care about, and Kay clearly has a problem with it, like in Men in Black. They never, it's a really small thing, but they never bring it up again in the movie. I think that if you were to bring back Josh, you can lean into that. Like maybe we can explore how aliens like have gotten integrated more into the structure of the organization, or like I was saying, like full tilt of like my idea of like quote unquote a 7 in Men in Black. They're hunting down a serial killer. We think that it's an alien. It turns out like this might be like a typical thing. Like it turns out the killer, it's a human killer who is killing aliens. And it's like, maybe it's like a former Men in Black agent. It's a Men in Black agent who faked his neuralization or something, like his retirement or whatever. You know, like I feel like there's a really, you could take those themes and those ideas, like of kind of just
you should write this
xenophobia. Like I've been thinking about it so much.
I'll write you a fan script.
I'll give you my pitch. My pitch is that, especially now with like a budget being for what it is for a movie and like the hundreds of millions of dollars, I think you could do a lot of fun fish out of water stuff of having some MIB agents go to another planet. You know, just film something in Tunisia with some weird animal puppets, but having to be humans on another planet with other customs, I think could lead to something that tastes very different and behaves very different, but still feels like this franchise.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we got to start talking about Men in Black International, and I'm so sorry. I have a challenge. I have a game. I have a game for you guys if you want to play it.
Yes.
I want you to say everything you liked about this movie and everything it did right and did well and that you enjoyed, and then we can get into demolishing it.
I liked that it was 2 hours instead of 3. I liked that it eventually ended. That was pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. Some of the effects looked kind of cool. Like, you know, some of the effects looked like ass, but some of them looked cool. I guess that's not a full compliment.
I was saying this to Joseph before you hopped on, Harvey. I appreciated the kind of bittersweetness to the ending with H&M.
Yeah.
In terms of like, so throughout the whole movie, they became friends, but they were along the lines of this idea of like slight flirtation. Like he brings up like, what? No, you never had a relationship, and it's poorly done. That whole plot line is like really poorly done, and like I don't think that the characters are written in a way that like it makes sense for them to even be flirting. But there is this, they bring back the musical motif too of like the retirement music, the little guitar, like you know, like a little nostalgic thing at the end when H and M find out that like they're going to be, you know, H is going to have to stay in London, M is going to go back to New York, and there's like a little bit of sadness, and O kind of brings up you know, like, hey, that's part of the job, it's sacrifice. And like I like that kind of like bit of a sour kind of bittersweet note that it ends on. And I think that that's like something that, because I feel like I don't know, they could have just been like, and then they were partners and they were kicking ass all throughout the world, you know, and like they just kind of ended on that, and that's literally it. That's the only the only time I felt something. Really.
I would have felt something if I gave a single shit about these characters. Wait, I'm supposed to be saying nice stuff.
So my actual positives that I have, and I wonder if you guys will agree with me. I feel like this script had some really good ideas during the note card phase. I think that even though the script sucks ass, it does some stuff that would have been cool if it had been fleshed out more. For instance, the finale being that an agent realizes their backstory was neuralized is interesting. They don't execute it well, and it kind of sucks. But the concept that an agent actually does something with neuralization that I thought was interesting. The main character being someone who saw MIB agents and shielded their eyes from neuralization and became obsessed with it and kind of worms their way into the organization. That's also kind of cool. Liam Neeson's character, I mean, the mole plot line, anything with spies in it does a mole plot line, and it's so freaking cliche. It just gets so dull. But again, we're saying nice things. I think that was a cool idea in the note card sense. And I don't know if this movie actually had a script. I think it might have just been note cards, and then Kumail Nanjiani just making some jokes.
This movie has big started filming before the script was done energy.
Yeah, it does.
For me, anyway. It feels very like modern Marvel movie, or I guess used to be modern Marvel movie, and like I I kept turning and being like, this feels like this whole scene feels like this was reshoots, and I think that was like a good like third of the movie for
reshoots with still improv language. So I mean, I imagine you guys watch Red Letter Media stuff if you guys are reviewing movies, yeah. Did you guys watch the Plinkett review of Ghostbusters 2016?
I think so.
I did not.
He just talks about how like there's this way that people make movies now where it's just like we're gonna get a bunch of funny people and we're gonna have a fun time. And so you get this vibe that like it reminds me of those podcasts where it's a bunch of comedians playing D&D, and like that can work, that can be entertaining, but for $1 million,
I love one of those podcasts.
Yeah, but when you have like a huge big budget movie and you just have some funny people hanging out and people animating it later, it really does not have magic in it. I think
it feels cheap.
Yeah, the best example I can think of.
It feels like the funny will just organically come up, you know?
The same scene kind of happens twice in both Men in Black 1 and Men in Black International. And in Men in Black 1, there's that sweet old man who gets assassinated and they're doing his autopsy. And it turns out he's a bodysuit and he's got a little alien in him. And it's funny because the alien looks really weird and he has a weird little voice. But it's also bittersweet because you can tell he's like a sweet little man. And he's dying and he's worried about, you know,
and
his
cat
people.
loves him.
And his cat loves him. And so like, yeah, it's funny and it's ridiculous, but there's also seriousness to it. In this movie, we get the same scene where our agents find Kumail Nanjiani, who I don't hate, but is the worst part of this movie by leaps and bounds. Pawnee.
The Baby Yoda.
And for one, his design is dog shit. And so you've got that comparison of just, you have the most lazy Beanie Baby.
It's like a little guy with giant eyes, so he's cute.
And you can
We're
tell.
We're going to sell plushies of this.
There's just no screenplay for him. He's just like, oh yeah, Kanye was here releasing an album. JK, they massacred my people. I
think that was the point in the movie we had to like tap out and like go have food or something. We were like, all right, we'll come back and finish this later. That joke just made us groan so loud that we were like, I don't know if we can handle another hour of this right now.
But yeah, like I forget their names because it doesn't matter. But Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, they do have some chemistry. They have a little bit. And anytime the two of them start to have a little bit of like flair, Kumail Nanjiani just like interrupts with like that just happened. #awkward.
Yeah. Pop culture reference.
I definitely don't put on the actors because I know how do I put this? I'm no longer a Marvel guy. I used to be a big Marvel pre-Endgame. I was a big Marvel guy.
Right.
And if you want to look at specifically these two actors, like in Thor Ragnarok, Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth are both the stars in that. They've got amazing chemistry in that movie, and like their characters like have awesome back and forths, and like, you know, there's like a lot of substance there, but they just don't have the meat to work off there in the script, you know, to really go with it.
Saying positives,
it's a mess.
I will say I really like Tessa Thompson. I think that she brought a lot to a character that was underwritten. I think that and she might just be pretty. I might just be blinded because she's a very pretty lady. But like, I really do feel like she had a certain charisma and was playing the role right.
Yeah. It was just the lack of character that lost me, I think. It made me kind of just not care about either of them. Here's a question. What was the last good movie that Liam Neeson was in?
He's a boomer shooter now. I don't know what happened to him.
What was his life like post Taken?
I hated his name. I hated that we went to London and that the agent in charge of London was High T.
High T.
That really is just the bottom of the barrel.
That's the word. Yeah, fuck it. Throw that in.
That's a joke. Someone will laugh.
England. Yeah.
But you know, you talk about international. There's an island. There's Paris. There's London, and there's Marrakesh. And I guess Marrakesh has a big chase scene in the markets, the open markets. And besides
Yeah.
that, they don't really do a whole lot of like, hey, we're in country X, we're going to do a subversion on stereotype Y. Because Men in Black 1 does so much with New York, and this does a
Yeah.
chase in an open market,
Yeah.
and that's it.
It just doesn't. It's like a globe-trotting adventure, right? So we're obviously going to lose that like sense, that like strong sense of place we got from New York in the last three. But there's just it. Honestly, it feels like now we get this interesting place to like have in the background of a scene, and now we have this interesting place.
Guys,
But it's like they don't actually do anything with it.
I want to show you. I'm sharing my screen right now. If you can both see it, I'm looking at like Liam Neeson's most recent movies, like his from the last like 5 years, and all of the posters I feel like are the same thing. It's just like
They are
him
big fit. Yeah,
with
the geezer
with a gun,
teaser, dude.
staring intensely at the camera. Like these are all these.
Speaking of red letter media,
These look like fake posters. All of them. He's just like grizzled, tired looking with a gun.
he's at the cashing in point of his career.
But I can't imagine a more fun existence than being an actor who's fallen kind of
just shooting shit movies that you don't have to care
and you're
about.
like, hey, I will be on set for one day. You can have me for 8 hours, and only 8 hours, and you will pay me $1 million.
$1 million, thank you.
And I will not do reshoots.
Yep. And the movie will be ass and no one will see it, but that's not my problem. Using the Naked Gun.
No, they're making a Naked Gun remake or reboot or something. 4.5, 4.25, and Liam Neeson's going to be in it.
I'm sure he'll. Oh wait.
Oh boy, what a great timeline.
Yeah, I've not seen any of the Naked Gun movies, so I don't know.
I wanted to ask you guys, when did you know you were in for a shit show? Because I knew pretty early on.
It was the neuralizer from the Columbia lady. And then as it started, the when they did the nostalgia dun 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 dun, dun like it gave me like the big we keep comparing it to Ghostbusters because it's just the same thing of like remember the thing you liked.
We talk about sorry.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Sorry, I just want to say mine was a little bit later. Mine was when we saw Tessa Thompson in her at her office job, her like call center job, and she has access to like this like crazy. She hacked into this crazy military satellite, and her her coworker next to her is like, "Is this about the ALIENS?" And I was like, "Oh no," because I feel like if anybody got this close to finding a Men in Black, I feel like the Men in Black would have rolled in and shut her down way.
They already know about it. Yeah.
Earlier, So that's just me. Sorry, go
ahead. I feel like so. MIB1 has that really strong triple beginning where it almost feels like too much of here's J, here's K, here's the villain. But it's really strong, it goes really quick, and each is really visually interesting. And one, we open with the 2016 great savior bullshit where T and Chris Hemsworth are in the Eiffel Tower, and they do some really lazy gags with someone proposing on the Eiffel Tower. And then they go to a gate, and the big villain is about to show up, and we don't see anything. So you have this huge section of the beginning that doesn't really establish anything at all. From a storytelling perspective, High T says, sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be. And that's the only real thread. It's setting up a twist, but it doesn't do anything to earn the twist. So that's a total wash.
That's when I turned to Avery and I was like, okay, he's going to be the bad guy at the end, guaranteed.
And then we go to Tessa Thompson's origin, and it's her at her home. And for a minute there, I was actually kind of excited because they went for some 90s nostalgia. Her house and her parents feel very 90s TV. And the dad hears a raccoon in the kitchen, and we don't see anything, and it's just kind of awkward and stilted. And then MIB agents show up, and an alien is in her bedroom. And I knew this movie was dog shit the second I saw that alien, because I'd recently watched MIB and highlights of the other movies, and there's some misses here and there. Even the cockroach at the end of one is kind of a miss. But every monster looks really cool. Even background monsters in it for only a second. And here we have our first alien in Men in Black International. And the design is it's so uninspired.
Yep. all of them. And this is also over the series. There's a creep of like, what if the aliens are just like people, with like one like weird little thing about them, and like what this guy, spoiler alert, this like little baby Yoda
like
plush machine, it grows up to just be a blue guy.
Oh man! So on the screen right now,
a big guy in a suit.
You got an A/B comparison of the monster from the opening in 4.
Compared to like the practical like squid baby from 1, like that shit looks real. Like they did a great job like with the eyes and like with the little animatronic.
It's funny, yeah.
And like it's like disturbing in a way that like, oh fuck, that does look like something that could exist out there. Whereas this is
it's
just
funny, like how gross it looks.
This looks like something out of Trolls.
They wanted to sell a plush.
Yeah. Who would buy a plush of that? It just feels very. It feels like, I know calling things AI generated is so reductive, but like before AI came about,
it does feel very uninspired.
Yeah, there were just people who were basically like AI, and they could just make something that felt so generic and so average that it like lacks wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much every alien in this movie.
Also, the way that this alien that she discovers in her bedroom comes back later is the laziest.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you'd call it a Deus Ex Machina, like the laziest. Like, how are we gonna get out of this situation?
We really wrote ourselves into a corner here.
Like, at the end, like that part.
Yeah,
that part made me the most.
Like that's gonna come back at some point, and it comes back in the worst possible way. So, and he's like, I am here to get you out of this situation, and then disappear for the rest of the movie. That's why I was in the first scene. I'm here to do exactly one, get you out of a situation for you.
You know what I thought was really strange about the opening like 30 minutes or so is there's that scene where they're in Marrakesh and the twins take over a body, and the body they take over has a really like weirdly gory end. Because they like liquefy that dude. They leave him as like a pile of hair and clothes with green goo. And it was I kind of got excited for a minute of like, oh man, maybe this is going to have some gross body stuff in it. And it really just does not do anything from that. That's just one little misnomer.
Nope.
But that was cool. I'm glad that, I had to pay $4 for this movie, and I was happy when I saw a man get liquefied.
That was kind of cool. Shame about that villain basically being not a character, but
Yeah, the old villain fake out of they really showed up, did nothing.
Yeah.
But we learn nothing about them too later on. Like we learn like, oh, they're just here to defend their world or whatever. Like the
big twist is it's a mole and it's the guy you thought it was.
Hooray.
Yeah. I mean, meanwhile, we've been saying there's a mole for half the movie because this is a spy movie, by the way. This is no longer like an FBI, whatever.
I mean, Liam Neeson even drops it from the jump, like when she first shows up to MIB London. He's like, it's never who you think it is when they're looking at all the celebrities.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That joke.
I heard that and I was like, this guy is the mole.
The neuralizer joke gets old after 1, but the celebrities or aliens joke gets really old after 1. I mean,
Childish Gambino, interesting.
Already in 2, and then 3 tried to do some unique stuff with like some callbacks by like having Andy Warhol be an MIB agent. But looking at a screen and seeing that actual weird celebrity is an alien is just very tired. Gets a groan.
It was most funny in the first movie. And then
now we'll do it with modern celebrities.
something I found interesting though is like I was thinking about it afterwards as far as so the worms in 1 and 2, like legit they're speaking Huttese from Star Wars, like when they're not speaking English. And I realized that they in the first Men in Black, when it showed the list of known aliens, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were in that list.
Nice.
So presumably in the universe of Men in Black, George Lucas, the alien, created Star Wars probably based off of like I don't know, his history textbook or something.
His travels.
Like,
damn.
His travel, things he's seen. So like, okay, in that case, like things in Star, like I kind of want to know like what is like the real version of Star Wars that alien George Lucas and Men in Black made Earth Star Wars.
He used like an actual literal alien language.
Yeah, no, literally, like Huttese is like real. Like there's really a Jabba the Hutt out there or whatever. It's just something, I don't know, a little detail that I just find funny.
Yeah. We just have to talk about other movies.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of things for international because
that's the problem. Is it just feels so bland. It feels like the Hollywood machine just like this just popped out the other end of it. I don't know. It's just such a bland product.
Yeah. As I'm reading this script, I'm just thinking more and more about how much I forgot about. Like I watched this movie yesterday and I forgot most of it.
I watched it last night and I don't remember shit.
But it was funny that it kind of ended in a Pacific Rim way, where Tessa Thompson is falling through the portal, and then they just shoot a big bomb through the portal. Yeah, that's how they
shoot the big CGI gun through the big CGI wormhole.
I don't know about you guys, because like some parts are worse than others, but everything about the secret island, I was having trouble paying attention. Because at that point,
I was like, "Is this like a side quest? Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah, they go see the arms dealer, RZA.
An arms dealer with three arms.
RZA Ghostface.
Isn't that funny? That's another one. It's just like, imagine an alien, but it's like a person. She has three arms, and her hair is weird.
Yeah. That one.
It's just like there's so many missed opportunities. This movie is so uninspired, and it feels like it was an obligation on the filmmakers to make it.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about how like manicured and like thoughtful every detail of the first one is, and even the second and third one. This one just doesn't really care.
It is.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna remark about 1 being about nihilism and 4 being a product of nihilism, and that's how you join them together.
Trying to warn us.
I wanted to ask you guys, Harvey, I've been talking about my version the whole time, and Harvey, you mentioned a little bit you'd like to see. I wanted to ask what would you like to see going forward if we were to bring back this franchise in some way? And I have talked about like what I wanted as far as like the R-rated thing. You said that you'd like to see Men in Black agents go to other aliens. Joseph, I want to hear a little bit about what would your version? We had talked about like a really like a good Men in Black video game would be dope, like a Rockstar.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Was LA Noire, but with aliens.
Yeah,
that was pretty much it. Yeah. We were pretty high.
Yeah. Something else. Wait, we forgot to mention. I forget exactly. I think a little bit before Men in Black International came out. And I'm sure it might say in the production notes. I don't know if you guys had remembered, but there was, I think it was like 2016, 2015. There were leaked emails from like some higher up Sony executives that a crossover film of Men in Black and the 21 Jump Street franchise, Joan Hill and Channing Tatum, was going to happen. It was going to be called MIB 23. I looked up a little bit more about it the other day, and there was a script that was written, and Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the director of the 21 Jump Street movies, were super on board with it. It turns out it wasn't what I thought. So Schmidt and Janko basically come across some alien shit while they're on another drug bust, basically. Like, they come across some alien things and get involved with having to deal with the Men in Black and deal with that world. Like, they don't join the Men in Black, but it's just like a little crossover event where things happen. Basically, they really liked the script, and like Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum really liked the script, but the producers at Sony basically like just wasn't able to see the vision. Like, ultimately, what I read was Phil Lord and Chris Miller were like, yeah, the producers and the higher ups just like didn't see how we could, like, they saw Men in Black in two different things that they couldn't imagine going together. Like, they couldn't feasibly, in a way, think about how to put those things together, and that's why the movie pretty much didn't get made.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just wasted opportunity.
That'd
be cool.
Those are the guys who also made the Lego movie and the Han Solo movie that got aborted, right? Yeah, there's huge problem in Hollywood, and I think I'm not trying to get too cynical, but like the American institution is kind of dying, and like film preceded that. But one of the things that's been really interesting to watch in my life is that someone will make something very unique that feels very fresh and very original, and people try and shove franchises into it, but producers don't have faith. So when I also read about the Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover, and it sounds like it just would have been the Han Solo movie again, where some Disney executive
get reshot, and
some Disney executive saw what they did with the Lego movie and said, "Oh, this feels really fresh and original. Can you make something that feels this way? It kind of breaks the fourth wall and is really zany but has a heart in it." And they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." And they make it, and the studio is like, "Ooh, no,
no, we don't actually want that.
I need magic transforming bullshit and quips."
Yeah, that is
So my thought on that is just I just feel like it couldn't have happened. It is, everything everywhere all at once was like they just did that again. Everything everywhere all at once felt very original, very different. And Disney came along and said, "Oh, can we just shove Star Wars into this by giving it to those people?"
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It
would have been cool though.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. We've said a lot of what I guess my last question before we get to the prop question, just as far as like more kind of fan dreaming. Sorry. In a Men in Black reboot, revisitation thing, whatever you want to call it, like reimagining. Removing K and J, specifically those characters. Who do you think actor-wise could be a good good new characters, good new agents to kind of bring into this world? Like, who could you see like starring in a new Timothy Chalamet is Agent T.
Every time you ask this question, I'm just like, man, we used to have like dudes that were just like really funny and charismatic and everything, and now like the dudes that were that aren't that anymore, and I can't really think of anyone.
I got someone
that I'd really go for it.
I think that Willem Dafoe, I mean, he's fascinating no matter what he does, but I think him as an MIB agent kind of being like both J and K, of like he's old and horrified and seen some shit, but also he's just kind of like a chipper, funny dude. I can really imagine Willem Dafoe in the black suit talking to a crazy puppet monster. And
his character from Nosferatu as a Men in Black.
My pitch would actually be Dale Cooper is in the Men in Black, but played by Willem Dafoe.
Nice.
And he's just being like so friendly and like trying to teach yoga to aliens.
Smiles a lot.
Yeah. That's my pitch.
I don't think I have anything better than that, to be honest. I think I'd love to see Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
As far as just like actors go, it's just I feel like we're in a drought of like really charismatic guys. I don't know.
I feel like Pattinson's the go-to as far as like what people say is like if you want to cast anybody in anything. I feel
like Good Time.
Good Time, yeah. I feel like what I said earlier, more than I should have said. I wanted to ask about director. I feel like we go to director all the time. I think I had mentioned it briefly that I would want Guillermo del Toro to do a new. He's my go-to for a lot of things, but I feel like the Hellboy movies are kind of the vibe that I would want for Men in Black. They
are like a little bit of an edgier Men in Black.
Yeah, like dealing with the
mid 2000s.
So I think like even down to that, like someone like Ron Perlman, or who else is in those movies? Actually, no. Give David Harbour another chance. I feel like Hopper from Stranger Things, just make him a fucking Men in Black agent.
Man, David Harbour is like a burnt out youngster who like is like a survivor of the alien war, and he's with Willem Dafoe, who's just happy to be there. I'd watch that.
That's a good pairing.
I'd watch that.
Yes. That's the movie then. Harbour, Willem Dafoe.
I think we figured it out. Yeah.
We did it, guys.
Get me Sony on the phone.
Harbour, Willem Dafoe in the 70s throwback Men in Black detective story with Josh Brolin as K coming in for a cameo. Send it, print the money. Last question. What props? I'm gonna let us each have 3 props from the movie, because there's lots of gadgets and toys.
Okay. I want the fake head I'm jumping in. I want the fake head that the little alien was riding around in. I want that.
Just the head.
I want the little cockpit.
From Men in Black 1, do you want the alien?
Was that thing a puppet?
It was a combination of puppet and CGI.
All right. Well, I want the puppet as well. That's my second one. And the third one, I want a neuralizer. I'm sorry to jump in and grab that first, but I'm gonna run out of ideas if I let you guys go first. So
I am fascinated by the design of the squid baby. I hate its lips, and that's actually that's the only thing I have in my notes I haven't read yet. Is I hate the lips on the squid baby so much, but that's part of what makes it terrifying. So that would be a fantastic Halloween decoration for my porch. There's someone in my neighborhood that has one of those 12-foot skeletons, and they keep it out in their yard year round and dress it up for different holidays.
Yeah.
I would have that squid baby, and I would dress it up in different outfits per season.
Have it like preserved in like an acrylic cube or something like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm going for. Second, egg chair. This is the Men in Black is what introduced me to the egg chair. The egg chair was also in The Sims, and I think there's like a Simpsons gag about the egg chair, and it kind of created this lifelong fascination of like, oh, that's a thing that like sophisticated adults know about is the egg chair. You know you've made it if you have
the rich people
the egg chair.
Yeah. Yep, the rich people chair.
I'm glad. Yeah, so this shows this is a good franchise for this prop question because like I got completely different props. There's
Nice.
a lot of toys in this one. I really like the look of the little time jumper device in Men in Black 3. I like it's got like it's like the metal moving like time thing. I think it looks cool. And with a little laser like inside, I think it looks neat. That, and then I want the fucking roach. I want the extermination vehicle from Men in Black 1.
You just want the whole thing. You don't want the.
I want to drive it around.
You don't want just the bug. Yeah.
I want to drive it around. I want to be like, oh, anybody try to get around there.
My third would absolutely be his UFO. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't get my third, and I want my third prop.
Oh, the one he was rolling.
Sorry,
But my third is absolutely because it's so tiny, and that's part of what's really funny about it. Is you imagine your villain showing up in this Independence Day mothership, but it's like he's a cockroach, and cockroaches can like get smaller than a dime. I've thought that maybe that's even what it's referencing, but it's just like this tiny, shitty little UFO.
Yeah,
it's real cute.
That's great. The big the disc that he's trying to fit in the van.
Yeah. I also let's see, the last one I would want is K's 50s Men in Black laser gun. 60s Men in Black laser gun. It's just like a bit more goofy looking, and like kind of has like these big glass. But I think in general, I like the goofy like old school aesthetic of Men in Black 3. It's definitely not like I prefer the first movie overall in general, but I like seeing the goofier kind of like B movie. Like old school aesthetic 60s. They went with in that one, but
the time travel was a good move because it allowed them to do something different with the aesthetic that also had inspired the aesthetic because the Men in Black are very kind of like 60s looking, so that was like a smart decision on someone's part.
Yeah, this might be this is going to be such a broad statement I'm about to make, which may just be reflective of like how I feel about the world in general. I don't care about movies that take place in modern day anymore.
Yeah, no.
No,
I want everything to be a period piece. Like I don't like.
I've never.
I don't need Men in Black with smartphones unless it's what I said, Joseph, where like you have a Men in Black movie where they have smartphones, but they just have smartphones in the 70s because the aliens gave them smartphones.
Yeah, we were talking about like our 70s Men in Black would be using like Windows 95 and shit.
Because the aliens gave them Windows 95.
Yeah, they're like a step ahead, but they're still like behind us.
No,
I like that idea.
I mean, coming from book world, no one is writing a book that takes place in modern times. Everyone writes a book that takes place in the 90s. Yeah, it's just things used to be cool. Things used to have looks to them, and we used to have faith in things. Yeah. It's we don't need to get into all that
sad.
Now.
Yeah. I think it also comes down to what's it called? I think about even going into a basic thing as far as like was it when I don't have kids, just okay, we're both in our 20s, but it's something where like I look at like my younger cousins, like my nieces and nephews and stuff. They don't have toys, and they don't have like things that they identify with. Even on
they have like YouTube channels that they like.
Yeah, they have YouTube. Like, they have smartphones and devices, and they have like shitty little mobile games that aren't saying anything. You know, like the little.
Nope.
I think back to and this is me being old man. Like the video games I used to play as a kid, like had things that they were talking about and like art behind how things looked and how things are presented and like like
they don't really have like Mr. Rogers anymore. It's
I think we talked about this the last time I was with you guys, but it's very interesting that because I'm going to be turning 33 this year. I kind of came from the peak of like movies and TV shows really like influencing your life. Because if you go back before the 90s, you had like Trekkies and you had like theater nerds, but it was during my lifetime that like the art of film and literature and like people being obsessed and identifying with fictional worlds kind of reached its peak, because that's on its way out now. I don't think that I've got some nieces and nephews and little cousins and stuff, and they like franchises. Like one of them loves Harry Potter and one of them likes this horror series, but I just don't think people identify with media in that same way of like there's a universe that they love. And I think
that might be because like we're all like in like a sea of media at all times, right? And kids are too. It's just like, how are you even going to find that thing that you like get super into and get like
I remember
there's so much.
There used to be like unwritten rules about originality, and I remember like when I was a kid, there was the Spider-Man trilogy, and the third one sucked, and it was what it was. And then immediately they announced a new Spider-Man with a new director and a new helmet and everything. And I remember being like, you can't do that. Like, that's against the rules. Like, it's too soon. Not enough time has passed. This is disrespectful. And I thought that was kind of in my own head. But in a sense, it wasn't, because like once upon a time, studios would pass on stuff like out of respect and like to let stuff breathe.
Yeah.
And also like people didn't steal ideas as much or rip things off as much. And fourth wall breaking media didn't exist. But now everything is constantly stealing, constantly breaking the fourth wall, constantly being rebooted. And the nail in the coffin for me is I don't watch DC movies, but I know that like DC has said, fuck it, we're just doing a multiverse. It's all happening congruently in separate universes. We're going to mix and mash all of them. And it's like, you can't keep a story going in that. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's on one hand, it's like, oh, good. Does that mean we're just gonna get like just movies again instead of just like big extended TV shows?
Yeah, it's the Marvel and Star Wars. Like this has definitely become us ranting into the thing, but the Marvel and Star Wars thing is that like every Marvel and Star Wars property thing that I've seen in the last few years just feels like it is a trailer for the next thing.
Yeah.
Like nothing is a movie. Things used to be a movie first. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, it was a movie first.
The pretense has been dropped, and now it's on the commerce side of the art commerce spectrum.
I do think every once in a while, as far as I think there are two to end things on a positive note, and I do have to end things as far as like my fiance is coming back from the grocery store. I need to help them soon bring shit up, but something. I do think that we are in a pretty damn good golden age of like indie cinema now. As well, I think I think A24 and Neon are putting out fucking great shit at the moment.
It's time to get going, so I'll make sure it's one of my last points. But I've been watching the new season of Severance, which I think had a bumpy start. But there's a scene in the third episode of the new season of Severance where I really like one of the characters, and they put a character into a really weird situation, and I kept thinking, man, what if I was in that situation? What would it be like if I was there? And also just like constantly being impressed by how clever it was. And that's what things need to be, is they need to be situations where you ask yourself, what if I was there? But you also care about the people in it. And when you have the universification and slopification of media, it just becomes sound.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like TV in general, I feel like I hear more about people talking about how TV is taking things into new places. Although I'm not as much of a TV guy as I am a movie guy, but that's just more like I enjoy in a movie timeline format versus it's hard for me to get into show. I don't got time for TV shows.
I don't have time.
But I'll rewatch a movie.
Same. All right. Well, that's Men in Black.
I think that takes us to the end. Yeah. Men in Black, Men in Black International blackpilled us.
Yeah, really
Men in Black pill.
Sent us Men in Black pill. Really sent us down the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole.
Yeah, really took a depressing ending. I mean, well, how else is this going to end? You know, we're talking about Men in Black International.
One more thing real quick. Something we had talked about. Something else I think they could do to expand the universe of Men in Black. Just real quick. I like the idea of there being other agencies that deal with aliens that like the Men in Black either don't know about or like they're in conflict with.
Yeah.
I think
I like the idea of there being like there's actually is a government agency that like it operates and it's just not up to the same scratch as Men in Black, but so Men in Black kind of overshadows them and they're constantly like asking MIB for like tips and stuff. I like that concept.
Yeah. There's a lot you could do. Yeah, to cap it off, thank you so much again, Harvey, for coming on. Always love having you on, man.
Sorry about the time zone screw up. For the folks at home, I kept my friends here waiting for 20 minutes, not knowing that I was looking at the wrong seaboard.
No, it's all good.
Nah, dude, we're good.
Time zones are fake.
Yeah. Money is fake, time is fake. Yeah. It's a flat circle.
Yeah.
We're all just living in a locker in a storage center somewhere.
Yep. We're all living in a locker and also a marble somehow.
A marble bag. Thank you so much again. Yeah, this has been Midnight Movie Gang. You can check us out on YouTube at Midnight Movie Gang Podcast. Please go over there, subscribe if you haven't. Follow us on Instagram, Midnight Movie Gang. You can also listen to the audio anywhere where podcasts are found. It is currently 4:34 p.m. Night Movie Gang, and thank you so much for listening again. Goodbye.
See y'all.
Bye.
So, here we go. With childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Todd, believed to be the lover of Dave Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Grant everybody that I'm here to hold on. Oh, please tell me where they're going. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How hopeless that I got in here. 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent.